My name is Linda Harrington, and I am the CEO of Harrington Communications. 5 years ago, my mother-in-law Janita's anonymous complaint destroyed my career at her friend's company. Today, after her husband's bankruptcy, she's job hunting, and her application just landed on my desk. Seeing Janita's resume brings back memories I'd rather leave buried. Back then, I was the youngest director of marketing at Maxwell Communications, climbing the corporate ladder with innovative campaigns that caught even CEO Ed Maxwell's attention. My husband David and I had just moved into our dream home. Life was perfect, almost. Mom's just protective, David used to say when I complained about Janita's subtle digs. Protective? That was putting it kindly. From the moment we met, Janita made it clear I wasn't the wife she envisioned for her precious son. A small-town girl from Ohio? How quaint, she said during our first meeting, her tone as frosty as her smile. Marketing? Not exactly a stable career. Her disdain didn't stop me from excelling. My ideas were game changers, and Daniel himself once said, "Linda, keep this up and you'll be running your own division by 30. Janita wasn't thrilled to hear of my success. At a family dinner, when David proudly shared my promotion, she asked with feigned innocence, "Maxwell Communications? Isn't that Amanda Maxwell's company? Such a shame about their security issues lately." I missed the warning signs. 2 weeks later, Daniel summoned me to his office. His usual warmth was replaced by cold professionalism. "Linda, we've received troubling reports," he said, sliding a folder across the desk. Anonymous tips about data breaches, leaked client information, emails from my account, and meetings with competitors. My blood ran cold. "This is a mistake," I protested. "Those emails are forged." But the decision had already been made. By that afternoon, I was escorted out of the building, my career in shambles. The whispers began immediately. "Linda Harrington, corporate espionage. No one will touch her." At the emergency family dinner Janita hosted that night, she cooed, "Oh, darling, perhaps this is a blessing. David's doing so well at his father's firm. Maybe it's time to focus on being a proper wife." David squeezed my hand under the table. "We'll figure this out, babe," he whispered. But when I caught Janita's smirk, I knew. It took 2 weeks and a lot of digging, but I finally found the proof: emails, falsified logs, all traced to Janita's IP address. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. "You were a liability," she said over tea. "David deserves a wife who puts family first." I did what any loving mother would do. That night, I made a choice. I sold every designer bag Janita had ever gifted me, rented a tiny office, and launched Harrington Communications with nothing but my laptop and a burning drive to succeed. David supported me, even when I worked 18-hour days. But Janita's poison lingered. "Mom says we should think about starting a family soon," David said hesitantly one evening. I ignored her shadow and threw myself into my work. Client by client, success by success, I rebuilt my reputation. Within 3 years, Harrington Communications had gone national. "Linda Harrington is transforming digital marketing," the headline said. Meanwhile, Janita's world was crumbling. Her husband's risky investments imploded, their mansion was seized, and their assets were frozen. The socialite who once dismissed me as small town was now scrambling for survival. And here I am, sitting in my corner office, staring at her application. My assistant, Camilla, barely hides her shock. "Mrs. Janita Harrington specifically asked this be sent to you," she says. "She's applying for the executive assistant position." I lean back in my chair, memories swirling. "Schedule her for an interview," I say. Camilla blinks. "Are you sure?" I glance at the nameplate on my desk. Linda Harrington, CEO. A slow smile spreads across my face. Absolutely. After all, family should help family. The look on Janita's face tomorrow morning will be worth every painful memory. The next morning, Janita arrives 10 minutes early, a shadow of her once polished self. Her designer wardrobe has been replaced by a modest department store suit, and her signature diamond jewelry is conspicuously absent. Through my office window, I watch her sit nervously in the reception area, clutching a leather portfolio. probably the last relic of her former luxury. Mrs. Harrington is here for her 9 a.m. interview, Camilla announces, a trace of a smirk playing on her lips. Let's not keep her waiting, I reply, straightening the folders on my desk. When Janita walks in, her face falls. Clearly, she hadn't expected to face me directly. Perhaps she'd hoped for a quiet favor handled discreetly through HR. Linda, she falters before regaining her composure. Thank you for considering my application. I gesture to the chair across from my desk. Please sit. Let's discuss your qualifications. For the next 20 minutes, I dissect her resume. It's a study in inadequacy, college dropout, no real work experience, and skills gleaned from charity board positions she bought her way into. Your resume is interesting, I say, mimicking the patronizing tone she used on me years ago. Not exactly what we usually look for. I know I lack traditional experience, Janita replies, her voice faltering. But I have excellent organizational skills, and I'm a quick learner. Like how quickly you learn to forge emails and fabricate evidence. My words cut through the room like a blade. Her face pales. I never meant to. Destroy my career? Brand me a corporate spy? Control your son's life? She drops her gaze, her voice a whisper. We were different people then. Things have changed. I lean forward, my voice cold. Yes, they have. You're broke. Your friends have abandoned you. Your husband is facing federal charges. And now you're sitting in my office asking for help. Tears glisten in her eyes. I know I don't deserve it, but I have nowhere else to turn. Nobody will hire me. The scandal, everyone knows, Janita said, her voice trembling. How does it feel? I asked quietly. To have your reputation ruined overnight? To have doors slammed in your face? To be untouchable? I'm sorry, she breathed. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. I picked up her application and studied it for a long moment. The position pays $35,000 a year. Standard hours are 8 to 5, with overtime as needed. No special treatment, no family privileges. You'll report directly to Camilla. And one misstep, one hint of interference in my business or my marriage, and you're out. Clear? Janita nodded quickly, a flicker of hope lighting her expression. One more thing, I said, pulling a document from my drawer. This is a notarized confession of what you did at Maxwell Communications. Sign it. Her hands trembled as she took the paper. For insurance, I said coolly, to prevent any future misunderstandings. After a brief hesitation, she signed it, her pride crumbling as she handed it back. You start Monday, I said, standing. Camilla will handle your onboarding. Don't be late. As she left, Camilla peeked her head into my office. Everything okay? I smiled, tapping the signed confession. Perfect. Sometimes karma needs a little help. That evening, David found me in my home office, staring at old wedding photos. Mom told me about the interview, he said, his tone cautious. And about Maxwell Communications. Why didn't you tell me before? I met his gaze. Would you have backed me? His silence spoke volumes. She starts Monday, I said, turning back to my work. David let out a low whistle, half laughing. Mom answering phones and fetching coffee? Dad's under investigation, their accounts are frozen, and now this. It's like watching an empire crumble. I thought about the confession in my safe and Janita's face as she signed it. No, I corrected him. It's like watching a new one rise. But I underestimated her. Janita wasn't done fighting yet, and her first day would bring challenges I never saw coming. Monday morning arrived with an unexpected sight. Janita was already at her desk at 7:45 a.m., attentively listening as Camilla walked her through the scheduling system. Gone were the designer suits and extravagant accessories. In their place, she wore modest business attire. Even her meticulously manicured nails had been trimmed to practicality. Your 9 a.m. with Digital Dynamics called to reschedule, she informed me with professional ease as I walked past. I moved them to Thursday based on your availability. I paused momentarily, taken aback. Was this another manipulation? Another ploy? But as days turned into weeks, Janita proved herself startlingly capable. She was organized, efficient, and most surprisingly, humble. Then came the Maxwell Communications incident. I was deep in a board meeting when Janita buzzed through. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Daniel Maxwell is here. He's demanding to see you." The name sent a jolt through me. 5 years had passed, and now he wanted to show up. "Send him in," I said, dismissing the room. Daniel Maxwell entered, a shadow of the confident CEO I remembered. He looked worn and uneasy. Janita followed him into the office, her notepad and pen at the ready. "Linda," he began hesitantly, "we need to talk about—" "Actually," I interrupted, "anything you have to say can be noted by my secretary." I gestured toward her. "You remember Janita Harrington, don't you?" His eyes widened as recognition dawned. "Janita? But how?" "Life has a funny way of rearranging things," I said smoothly. "Now, what brings you here?" He shifted uncomfortably, clearly off balance. "We're losing market share. Your digital strategies are dominating the space. Our board wants to discuss a potential merger." I let out a sharp laugh. "A merger? The same company that branded me a corporate spy now wants to partner?" Daniel hesitated, his gaze dropping. "About that, Amanda admitted recently that she may have acted on incorrect information." Janita's pen stopped mid-scribble, her hands trembling just slightly. "Mrs. Harrington," I said formally, "please read back what Mr. Maxwell just stated." Her voice was steady, but barely. "Mr. Maxwell indicated that his wife Amanda knowingly provided false information that led to your termination." "Thank you," I said, my smile cold. "Now, Mr. Maxwell, as for this merger you're proposing, the answer is no. However, Harrington Communications might entertain discussions about an acquisition. At a reasonable price, of course, given Maxwell Communications' current challenges." Daniel left shortly after, visibly shaken. Janita lingered in the doorway. "I should have stopped her," she said quietly, staring at the floor. "When Amanda told me what she planned to do, I should have said no. But I thought I was protecting my son from a mistake." "You thought you were protecting him from me," I replied evenly. "And instead, you nearly destroyed someone who built everything she has on her own." She met my gaze, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I am." 2 months later, we closed the Maxwell acquisition. That same day, Janita handed me her resignation. "I've learned what I needed to," she said. Humility, respect, the value of hard work. But we both know this arrangement can't last forever. I studied the letter in my hands. "Where will you go?" "David's father is being sentenced soon. Someone needs to rebuild what's left of the family business, the right way this time. No shortcuts, no schemes." I hesitated. The secretary position might be ending, but I could use a compliance officer. Someone who understands firsthand how damaging corporate manipulation can be. The pay is better, but the expectations are higher, I said, my tone firm. Her eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because 5 years ago, you showed me who you were. Now, you're showing me who you can become. And because family should help family on the right terms." That evening, I shredded Janita's confession, not because I fully trusted her, but because holding on to it meant holding on to the past. Later, David found me in my office. "Mom told me about the new role," he said. "Are you sure this is the right move?" I handed him the acquisition papers. Maxwell Communications is now under the Harrington Communications banner. 5 years ago, she orchestrated my downfall. Today, I own that company, and I'm giving her a chance to rise. The difference is, I'm doing it with grace." David smiled. "You're incredible, you know that? And hey, speaking of family, remember our conversation about starting one?" I touched my stomach, grinning. "Already ahead of you. 2 months along." When we told Janita the news, her happiness was genuine. No games, no control, just the joy of a future grandmother. As she hugged me, whispering her congratulations, I realized something profound. The best victories aren't about destroying enemies, but transforming them into allies. Janita may never become the mother-in-law I envisioned, but she was becoming someone I could respect, a woman who grew from her mistakes. The baby will need a lot of things: Janita said hesitantly. Maybe we could go shopping together, if you'd like. I thought about how far we'd come. I'd like that, I replied. But let's skip the luxury boutiques this time. We both laughed, and for the first time, it felt real. Life isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward. Janita taught me that in her own roundabout way. And as I watched her tackle her new role with determination, I realized the most unexpected ending is sometimes the one you create together.